Welcome to Wholesale Hotline, where we cover everything to do with wholesale real estate. I'm Jamil Damji.
I'm Brent Daniels.
And I am Pace Morby.
And together we cover the most important parts of wholesale real estate.
Lead generation.
Conversion of sellers into contracts.
And dispositions. Guys, remember when you're watching this show, do us a favor and squad up in the comments.
Make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the YouTube channels and in the Facebook group Wholesale Hotline.
Most important, we want to know we're doing a great job for you and helping you build your business. So go give us a review on iTunes and or Spotify.
So squad up and enjoy the show.
Welcome to Wholesale Hotline number 149. I am Brent Daniels, joined by the incredible Pace Morby. And listen to this, Pace. We've gone for 13,320 minutes of talking wholesale real estate, investing in real estate, creative finance, and building businesses, which I think leads perfectly into today's show because you are bringing on somebody that talks all about buying businesses, all about building businesses, and that is Codie Sanchez. And we're really, really, really excited to have her on here. She's absolutely incredible. She'll be joining us soon. But Pace, talk to me. How do you want this show to go down?
Oh, I mean, everybody knows this, right? Everybody knows we'll have a couple thousand people tune in today. We'll have 150,000, 200,000 downloads for the month. Everybody knows that Codie Sanchez is one of the most articulate, charismatic, intelligent, smart as a whip type of human beings on the planet. And a bunch of my friends DM me. In fact, you asked me, you're like, dude, my previous social media organizer would have just fallen in love with me if I told them Codie Sanchez was coming on Wholesale Hotline tonight. So I think everybody's excited. We have a live audience with live questions in the side comments, a little bit different than most shows. I'm excited about having people have this amazing conversation. Should I go and buy a business or should I go and buy real estate? And she had this post with Ryan Pineda, who's been a good friend of ours for 6-7 years. In fact, Jamil and myself and Cody are speaking at Ryan Pineda's event in, 3 weeks or so in Vegas. And she had this amazing delivery about why real estate is not as good as business. And I want to talk about that tonight. She has amazing points. And so tonight we'll bring her on, have her say hi to everybody. And for the people who don't know her, who are under a freaking rock, there's a lot of things about Codie Sanchez that people don't know. Her origins. I didn't know 2 years ago when I found out about Codie, I didn't know she was from Arizona like you and I. She's an Arizona girl. And she has an amazing origin story about what she did for a living before she became a super badass on social media. So let's welcome to the show, Codie Sanchez. How you doing, Cody?
Hey guys, what's going on? Thanks for having me.
Welcome. This is exciting. We've had so many people reach out, Cody. We're going to have so much fun here. Thank you for joining us.
Well, I'm excited about it. I'm back here blushing. Pace has been way too nice, giving me too much credit. Now it's all downhill from here.
Cody, you're a badass. We appreciate you. Your delivery and how articulate you are. I'm friends with Layla Hermosi and Alex as well. And I'll DM Layla from time to time when we talk about you and we talk about social media a lot. And I don't think there's many people, if any, that I can even think of that do a better job on social media than you. You're unbelievable.
Oh, thank you. Well, I learn a lot from them too. I know what's crazy is how small this world is. I think you were similar to me. Like before we were doing stuff on the internet, we were just investing and doing this in real life, not on the interwebs. And then there's this small group of humans who now are comfortable talking about what we do, previously privately, now publicly. And it's really cool to kind of get a peek behind the curtain of a bunch of other players. And so, yeah, they're the real deal. I love them.
Yeah. Speaking of the real deal, you were not always just buying businesses. You actually did, when you lived here in Arizona, what did you do for a living? How did you jump into your first career? What did you start doing?
Yeah, that was a long time ago. I'm born and raised in Arizona. My first job there, that was a real job, I guess. I actually worked at the Mental Health and Rule 11 Competency Court. So I I basically read briefs and worked with people who the state was trying to take away their rights. Sometimes made sense why, sometimes didn't make sense why. So I did that for a period. Then I thought I wanted to get into politics. I worked on actually Senator McCain's campaign, his Senate campaign. And then, all making no money whatsoever. And then when I graduated from college, I got recruited to Vanguard in something called their accelerated development program. So you basically shuffled around to a bunch of different divisions inside this huge finance conglomerate. And for some reason, they thought that, a girl who didn't know what a mutual fund was, who had never, talked about finance ever, who thought that, stock was something you put in soup. And then I got into that program somehow, just maybe a lot of good questions or decent questions. And then I did that for like a year and a half. But I'm sure you guys have had jobs like this too. It was amazing, our rotational program, but that company was soul sucking for me. So I'll never be sponsored by Vanguard because I think it was like where dreams went to die for me in particular.
Oh, but you jumped, didn't you? So I read somewhere, probably about 2 months ago, I read somewhere that you actually did news correspondence or you did documentaries for people. I think what it was, from what I remember, is you were documenting what was going on in sex trafficking or drug trafficking. What were you doing?
Yeah, human trafficking. So that was actually my last year of college. So I got a grant from something called the Howard Buffett Foundation to write stories about human trafficking. So picture US-Mexico border, the most horrifying things that can happen to humans. And we wrote a bunch of stories about separation and what borders mean for humans that live along them. And so, yeah, I did that for all of my senior year. I basically lived down in Mexico and would write these stories with my photographer, Courtney. And we won a couple awards. And it was actually pretty cool, but also heartbreaking. I mean, it was when I realized, man, my last name is Sanchez. A lot of their last names were Sanchez. I had long brown hair. I was young. This was in a city at the time called Juarez, which is also called La Ciudad de Muerte, the city of death. And so women are, to this day, and this was 15 years ago, every day found brutalized, raped, murdered, all around the city, to the tune of hundreds of thousands of women over the past few decades. And nobody really knows why. And so we would write stories about how many women, actually were found and what had happened to them. And it was during that time that I realized, man, we're writing these pretty incredible stories. And yet, when those stories come out, nothing changes. And so what's the difference between me with the last name Sanchez and this, woman I was writing about called Carmelita with the last name Gutierrez? And why, do I live the life that I do and she doesn't? And it's not because I'm Mexican and she's American. It's because I come from a background with some means and she doesn't. And means just meaning I was born in the US. I have access to college. I was starting to make a little bit of cash. And so that was probably the first point that I realized the only language that power speaks is green. It's money. And we need to figure out how to make more of it. And we need to teach more people how to make more of it, because those without money, they are the ones that have to follow the rules. And those with money, they're the ones that get to write it. And I always wanted to write them.
Wow, what a great point. An absolute amazing point, which leads into what we're talking about today, right? We're talking about making more money and giving people more opportunities. And one of the main things that you talk about on social media, and I'm also one of your contrarians. You have an amazing newsletter, unfreaking believable newsletter.
Oh, thank you.
So good. So I'm also one of your contrarians. A lot of my students are some of yours. Same thing with Brent Daniels. Brent Daniels runs a community called TTP, Talk to People, where he tells people, hey, you want to make money? You have to talk to people. And he shows people how to talk to other human beings. As simple as it sounds, it's one of those big roadblocks for most people. So for you, where is this passion coming from about buying businesses that are boring? Where the hell does this come from?
It's a means to an end. I don't tell people to buy businesses because anyone woke up one day when they were an 8-year-old and thought, mommy, I'm going to own a laundromat one day. Like, I don't think that's how people think about boring businesses. I believe in buying businesses because I think financial freedom is the key to physical freedom, which is the key to philosophical freedom, AKA you can think for yourself as a human and take action based on the things that you think and believe. And so, over the course of my career, I feel like I snuck in kind of to big corporate finance, from Vanguard to Goldman to State Street to First Trust, all these huge firms. And like somehow they let the fox in the hen house. And all I basically did was take my experience as a journalist and I applied it to the world of money and was like, wait a second. So you could do it this way, but this way makes you a little bit more. But that way, actually, you have to have, a rich daddy. But like that way, you could actually do it if you don't have anything. And so, I kind of was in these financial companies, not at the time probably aware of this, but just accumulating data points, like Richard Branson says, ABCD, always be connecting dots. And so I was connecting these dots. And when I started speaking to other people about, what I did in finance, it used to be like, how do you build a business in Latin America? Because I built a few, big ones. Or how do you climb the corporate ladder? And I was trying to figure out, where could I tell the most people the one thing that could drive 80% of the results with 20% of the effort? And I don't think it'll always be buying boring businesses, but I think today it is unequivocally hard assets, which I think you guys would agree with. And I think that we are in a generational wealth creation event with boring businesses in general. And oh, by the way, we just saw over the last 2 years what happens when we allow centralized government, centralized corporations, a few people to make all of the rules. And I like it a lot better when there's 3 million small businesses that they have to collect taxes from, as opposed to 500 Fortune 500 companies that they have to collect taxes from and can drive down regulations. And so that's why my passion comes from the fact that I think everybody should have access to capital, and that there's an abundant enough world where that could actually happen. And 2, I just want to get people there as fast as possible. So if tomorrow that's not boring businesses, then we'll figure that out.
I love that. I love that you're not married to that one exact passion and it's a means to an end. Christina Solara, I know Christina Solara's situation from years ago. She wants to open up a mental health wellness center. It's one of her passions. And she says, I understand this far too much, too broke to even think for myself. I feel this. For anybody else that feels that way, you've felt that way, that you're too broke to feel for yourself. You're basically asking for somebody else to give you some sort of resource that you ultimately have to follow their rules. If you guys have felt that way, this is definitely a show for you. So Cody, a lot of people follow you and they learn the boring business game. My first question is, can somebody, let's say graduating from high school, graduating from college, I have lack of financial resources, or at least that I think of, right? Anything that I'm fully aware of. I'm not connected to those resources yet. I know they're out there, but I don't know how to connect to them yet. Can somebody graduating from high school or college, just kind of starting out, can they buy a boring business with little to no experience and little to no credit, if any credit at all?
Yes, unequivocally, yes. Sometimes I feel like I'm like a hotline operator, like maybe because we're on the hotline show now, or like one of those late night, like, you too can buy a small business for $0 to no dollars down. Like, it's like, it feels gross somehow. But the reason that I tell people that is not because I give a fuck if you buy a small business or not. Like, at the end of the day, quite honestly, you're in charge of you. I can't really make a material difference on your life unless you take action yourself. And I'll be fine. I'll buy more businesses, and I'll buy the businesses that nobody else is buying them at lower valuations than if I go around telling everybody they should buy businesses and then raising the multiples of them, right? So like, it's actually a negative incentive for me to go and tell people about these businesses that I buy. Every time I do, I decrease the arbitrage window, meaning the businesses become more expensive because more people are able to do this thing. Why would I do that? Now, sure, we have an education business. We have courses on this. We have masterminds. I have a book coming out on it. So there's that side of the coin. But as to now, I make way more doing deals than I do running our education business. Maybe at some point that'll flip, but it would take a couple more zeros. And I think that my point that I press on people and why I tell them that you can do this is similar to how you guys talk about real estate. I think there are businesses, I call them gateway drugs to business, but there are businesses that are just the starting point. So buying a business, think about this. A business is this amorphous thing that has no real data points to it. A business could be something that makes $0 that costs you $0 to buy. And a business could be something that's hundreds of billions of dollars. And in between the two is a world of opportunity to meet every single person where they are. So if you're a high school student, you could buy a business that is a vending machine route. You could buy a business that is a student housing property management company, and that business maybe only has a few clients, and so you buy it for a couple $1,000s. You could actually buy a big business from somebody that you know through your family, or maybe you know from other people that you've worked for, and you have those guys finance the deal through seller financing, aka future profits, which I know you guys talk about that in a different way too. So moral of the story, the only excuses you have are the ones that are in your head. This isn't day trading. You can't click a button and get this done. It's not buying in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, aka it's not like an immediate endorphin rush. There is some hard work that goes into it. But is it possible for just about anybody with a base level IQ? I think so, yes.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Brent, my cohort, my co-host here, Brent Daniels, actually one of my original mentors here on the screen. I think Brent would argue that one of his greatest assets is not actually real estate. I would say his greatest asset, wouldn't you agree, Brent, is actually one of your businesses?
Yeah, 100%. And I love what you're talking about here, Cody. I mean, it's just a difference between owning a business and owning the job. You know what I'm saying? And the attention that goes in to owning your own business is what I think people need to be prepared for and have some experience. I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? You got to start. I've never had a job, Cody, so I don't know. I've always been in this world. So I think that, buying an existing business is an interesting idea. As long as it's something that you think that has the potential to really, really grow. I think that real estate has the potential for so many different avenues that I think we can get into, but my business is real estate. I mean, it's not a either or. It's not, passive income versus active income or anything like that. It is my business. That's where I get my income from, although I don't work in it on a day-to-day basis. So we can get into that too.
Yeah, it's an interesting world. Like your interview with Ryan Pineda, so good. And your points, 100%. I agree with 100%. The challenge is like 90+% of people that are out there buying real estate, right? The main demographic that goes to biggerpockets.com, they are going and buying real estate by acquiring a hard money loan, buying that property, putting some money down. A lot of times that hard money loan requires credit. Then they're putting repairs into it. They're refinancing using their credit now again, and they're keeping a good amount of cash in that deal. The challenge is that cash on cash return is really small for most investors. And then also that cash flow, you were so freaking spot on with $400 to $600, $600 being on the higher end, $200 probably being on the lower end, and $400 like right in the middle, being the monthly cash flow that these investors receive, right? And Ryan comes back and says, well, dude, $400 is not going to change my life at all.
Yeah.
And I agree with that entirely. So here's a couple of things that we teach on the show. The main thing we teach is we teach wholesaling real estate, which is how do I get the contract? It's kind of like you guys could do the same thing. It's like business brokers, right? It's like somebody goes out and finds a distressed seller, maybe distressed, maybe not, a seller that has motive, a motivation to sell their property or their business. Could be an insurance company. They've built this massive book for 30 years. They go, man, it's time for me to retire, but I don't know what to do. And I want to make sure that somebody carries and takes care of my clients long-term. So they might sell or finance that book of business to the next person coming down the pipeline, right? Amazing. Yep. You could go get that business under contract, I imagine. I've never wholesaled a business, but I'm wondering, could I get a business under contract and assign that contract and the rights to that contract to an actual business owner that wants to operate that? Or is that not really how it's done?
I highly doubt there's laws against it. So I think that means that you probably could do it. I don't see any that wouldn't be, unless that transfer of a business in that way could be considered a security, in which case we could get into, typical licensing issues. So I don't know from a legal perspective. My gut would say you probably can. Check with your local attorney, since I don't play one on the internet. But I think I think your point is really clear. I mean, I have one student who went through our stuff, and his name's Lloyd, and he basically bought a couple laundromats, and I use laundromats just because they're base case easy. Same way that I'm sure you guys use some lower end, sub 2 properties to explain, hey, you can do it with not this much money. But then I have a friend that, did wholesale on a $20 million, commercial real estate deal, right? Yep. So like you got the spectrum, right? but I use laundromats because they're easy. So anyway, Lloyd bought a couple laundromats, and but then Lloyd decided that he wanted to go and be a business broker. So now that's what he does. And the thing that's different, this is my dog Babar, about
Babar, like the
wholesaling.
elephant?
Yeah. Oh, you
Babar.
you're like
Great
the same
cartoon.
age. Yeah.
I love
We're
it.
the same age group. Yeah, he's the opposite of an elephant. The difference, I think, is you don't have to be licensed in order to be a real estate or in order to be a business broker at all. Typically, actually, I don't know anywhere where you need to do that unless you're going to do, investment banking offerings. And so, so I think you can do the exact same thing. But in my particular opinion, one of the most interesting things about being a business broker and why Lloyd ended up doing it is because you get to see all the deals. And so the best business brokers.
The first thing that popped in my head, I'm like, he's not the dude. He's not the dude throwing his fishing line in the river. He's the dude in the river with the net.
Mm-hmm.
Like he gets to stand there and catch all the fish and turn the ones down that he doesn't want. He basically gets to cherry pick.
100%. Yeah. So I know a lot of people who do a lot of deals and decide to be business brokers.
Okay. I just learned something new, by the way. I did not know you could be a business broker without being licensed. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, it's very different than real estate. Again, I think buying businesses is like where buying real estate was. I mean, let's see, Zillow, Redfin. When did MLS come on board? Like the 90s?
Yeah.
Probably.
Late 80s, yeah.
Late 80s, 90s. Okay, yeah. So that's exactly. So we're about 20 to 25 years behind real estate in buying small businesses. There's no good centralized databases. There's no good marketplaces. There's no certifications and regulations for it. It's a completely untapped market still to this date. But I think we will catch up. And over the next 20 years, it will eventually be as easy to buy small businesses as real estate, I think.
So one of the biggest opportunities that pops in my mind is immediately, how do you create essentially, I know there's buy, biz, sell and some other things like that, but they're not quite to a point where MLS is, right? MLS for us in real estate. I'm not licensed real estate agent. Brent, are you licensed?
Oh yeah.
He carries his license in his biceps. That's how you could tell.
That's it. Yeah.
Look at those bad boys. So I'm not licensed. I'm just an investor, just buying deals and doing all the things. But the thing that pops in my head is somebody could create essentially an MLS type of thing for businesses, or is that not really a good opportunity for this space?
No, I mean, I'd love to. I looked at a bunch and I've tried to invest in a couple of them. I actually reached out there's one called Biz Buy Sell. And like any good investor does, I got into the space. I was hardcore private equity, which meant like we were doing $1 billion deals, $100 million deals, really big deals, right? And then I started buying these things on the side for myself. And when I found Biz Buy Sell, which is the largest third-party business selling site online, I was like, this place is a piece of shit. Like, this is a terrible software. UI, UX is awful. Data's corrupt. But man, the traffic numbers are huge. So I reached out to the owner and I'm like, I've got X and Y and Z going on. I'd love to buy your little business. And I'm an idiot and I didn't do my full due diligence because I Googled it. And, afterwards they're part of, I think they're called CoreMark. Basically, they're a multi-billion dollar company that owns a bunch of these. Like they own LoopNet, which I'm sure you guys know.
LoopNet's awesome. LoopNet's
right.
The user experience is still not as good as like Crexy, but still LoopNet is pretty awesome.
Yeah. So they own all of those sites. They own sort of these like, I don't even know if I would call LoopNet awesome. I would say it's a really useful site that has obviously not been upgraded in 10 to 15 years?
Easy. Yeah. Crexy came in like a couple of years ago and just wiped the floor with them. But LoopNet is for people that want to look at commercial property. LoopNet's a really great place to at least start.
That's exactly the same with Biz Buy Sell. So I would love to own one of these or start one. The only issue is it's all about really inputting of data. You'd have to have some relatively sophisticated systems because you guys have been to small businesses. When was the last time you talked to your landscaper and they had automated text and subscription services and clean QuickBooks? Like no chance, right? And small businesses don't have the same systemization as real estate. We're like, nope, that house was worth that. It's not worth more or less because of the branding or the whatever. It's relatively commoditized. And so we've got to figure that out in business.
Honestly, Cody, that's one of the things that scares me the most. So I've owned, and I'm going to come to you and say, this is why I don't love the idea of buying a business. And I need you to convince me otherwise, if that's okay.
Great.
So I've had thousands of employees. I consider myself a pretty decent business owner. We currently do close to $100 million a year between 9 different businesses. and about
amazing.
700 different employees, most of them stateside, a good amount of them in the Philippines as well. Full-time W-2 employees, not like we're outsourcing to a virtual assistant company, but full-time. And we own a fund. We have about $300 million in real estate, which, you know, we're just a small budding company at least in our goals, right? We want to be at 12 million or 12 billion under management in the next 10 years.
That's amazing.
That's our goal, right? But I was a contractor before this. In fact, I was Zillow's first contractor. I was Open Doors' first contractor and OfferPad's first contractor. I would fly all over the country and I would set up construction sites for them so they could do their turns and all that kind of stuff. So I ran a sizable company, and holy shit, you could not be any more correct. Contractors, especially blue collar workers, they're so busy driving truck or visiting sites that the last thing they freaking do is update their QuickBooks, right?
Yep.
They're not going to automate anything. They're not going to do a subscription service. So I love all of those things that provide opportunities. If I took over a landscape company's business, I could clean it up incredibly easy, add a few things, a couple of bells and whistles, and triple the valuation of that company really quickly.
Yep.
However, what I'm fearful of is I'm fearful of adopting other people's dead bodies, right? Because in a business, there's all these dead bodies that are essentially buried along the way. Could be HR issues, could be whatever else. And so for me, I do love the allure of saying, oh, I built a construction company that was doing $25 million a year, not doing billion-dollar deals like you, but 25 million is pretty decent.
It's great.
But I know that I had a lot of bodies buried. Right. And I had to fight through that and become a different person in order to go back and clean all these things up and fix all this stuff. It took years and years and years. So for me, your argument of, dude, just buy a business, cut the line, like get the fast pass to Disney, go right to the front of the line and let somebody else wait in line for 10 years and build this business that you can take over. I love all of that. What I am fearful of is uncovering other people's dead bodies in their business. So how do I avoid, if I go out and buy a business, and I'm sure guys, we're going to cover a lot of fun stuff. I see a ton of questions, well over 1,000 people watching right now. So thank you so much again, Cody, for coming. But
Totally.
we'll cover like, where do I go find a business? What are your like top 5 businesses? Where can people find you? I am a contrarian, guys. Her shit is unbelievable. This lady.
Explain what contrarian is, Pace.
The
I
opposite.
don't want you
right?
to feel like you're fighting her. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I naturally want to fight.
No. Contrarian is your brain. No, I mean, explain it.
So we'll get into all that. But my thing is, Cody, most people look at a business the way I used to look at apartment buildings. I would drive by them and it would have this daunting anxiety would just flood my body of like, I can't handle something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is a business less scary than I'm making it out to be?
I think it's really good to have a healthy respect of any first deal that you do. And so like the first time somebody buys a piece of real estate, I don't think you should go and buy the fixer upper actually, because when did a piece of real estate when did a fixer upper ever come in under budget and faster than you anticipated?
Literally not one time. I've done 7,000 renovations and I can attest to that 0% of the time it comes in on budget or on time.
Yeah, ever. So you don't want to buy the ugly house on the block in business buying either. What you actually want to do is you want to go and you want to find the businesses that are chugging right along. These aren't businesses that have a lot of volatility in them. These aren't businesses that have hyper growth periods in them. Your first business, I talk about, you should buy like a bond, not like a stock. You buy a bond because you want a coupon to get sent to you in the mail, aka some cash, right? You buy a stock because you're like, I think it's valued. It's a little undervalued right here. They're going to do all this work and it's going to get real, it's going to become a lot better. So for like, not you, but let's say somebody out there listening who hasn't done this before, I'd say you want to buy a very consistent, easy business. And you want to do it where you have an unfair advantage. So we could talk about, there's 2 ways to buy businesses. One way to buy a business is probably how you guys talk about like people buying real estate that don't have an unfair advantage. So it's like, okay, we'll teach you how to go find these businesses and talk to the business owners. We'll teach you, what types of businesses are good, bad, or otherwise. We'll talk to you about how to look at the financials, the tax returns, and make sure that you're actually buying what you think you're buying. That's like hey, you don't have any unfair advantage, but you are going to go buy a business just because you want the cash flow. And then there's people like you. And so if I was telling myself to buy a business right now, the type of businesses that I buy today are going to be really different than what I would tell the average person. Same with you guys. What type of business should you two buy? Well, if I'm talking to Pace, I'm probably saying you should be buying media companies. You've already got the distribution, right? You saw Reese Witherspoon's deal with licensing rights to Hello
Gangster.
Sunshine.
Your
Right?
your breakdown of that was so succinct and unbelievable. I think it was
Thanks.
so good.
It's just out of pure jealousy, really. Alex Hormozy always talks about he's jealous of the Kardashians. I'm like, no. I don't want to have to do what they had to do to start that career. Like, I want Reese Witherspoon's segment. But so once you have an unfair advantage, you want to lay into that big. So anybody who's out there right now that has a business that's working, that has something that they're really good at, you're a great graphic designer, you've got a growing media company, you've got a huge real estate portfolio. You want to buy your competitors, you want to buy ancillary companies that you're already using, you're already familiar, you already know where their dead bodies are. Because let's say that advertising company that you guys use that does all of your PPC for ad buys, you're already paying them $1 million a year, right? You see that on your P&L right now. You're just turning the liabilities on your P&L into assets by structuring deals where you don't even have to take the full deal. You can just say, hey man, I'm $1 million of your annual revenue. I know, like, you guys are probably doing 5 or 6 million. That means I'm 1/5 of all of your revenue. How about I buy into your business for a de minimis amount. I'm going to introduce you to all of my other friends that also do ad buying. I want 25% of your company, not just equity though. I want a partnership distributing section of your company. So I get quarterly distributions based on total revenue. We don't really mess with profits when you're just buying a portion, because you don't want to have to track down, why they paid X or Y or Z. And that would be the type of deals I would tell you to do. You're going to go buy media assets.
You're my coach right now. So I'm going to ask you, you're going to be my coach. Okay. So
tell me. Mm-hmm.
I really like this, by the way. So we've got my challenge. So we have a TV show with A&E. We signed for 6 years, great distribution. The challenge there is I can't control my brand on a television show, whereas I can control my brand on YouTube and other places. Right. So, with A&E, we've been talking about spinoff shows and potentially doing something a little bit more fun. Like we bounce around and fix other people's businesses and do all that kind of stuff, which would be fun. I can have a little bit more say there, but throwing away the TV show and my inability, I mean, my paycheck says Disney on it. Disney is not going to let me do what I need to do all the time, right? To grow my brand. Yeah. But in real estate, what's interesting is, first off, there's so many freaking parallels here, right? Because you guys both in business, you guys have on market and off market, just like we do.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys are comping your deals just like we do. You're underwriting all of these deals. You're vetting all of these deals just like we do to verify whether it's a good deal or not a good deal. We get into a contract. We get into an inspection period. I imagine you guys have inspection periods to a certain degree.
Yeah, it's called a due diligence period.
Okay, we have our own due diligence period, which is awesome. So with my world and my brand, people come to me and they say, Pace, Brent, Jamil, Jamil's not here today. He's in Cabo. What title company do you use? Right? What closing attorney do you use? What insurance company should I hold my Airbnb insurance with? And so for us, I've gone vertical, and we've basically have gone in and said, okay, well, let's go build. This is where I've potentially screwed up. Correct me where I'm wrong, coach.
Yeah.
Our goal was, okay, let's go build brick and mortar 200 title companies nationwide. Now for me, and my justification for this argument, and you're going to tell me I'm stupid in a minute, which I hope I do. Sometimes you need somebody to yell at you, but my justification is my brand is all creative finance, right? The last 700 transactions we did, literally no money out of my pocket, no credit check, nobody checked my bank balance. It's all seller finance or subject to taking over existing debt. 254 units last week we closed on, no money out of my pocket, $20 million purchase, pretty cool stuff. However, I look at that and I go, okay, I need my title companies to truly understand how to navigate these types of transactions. And so the only thought I had, being as smart as I currently am in today's day, not having all of Codie Sanchez's knowledge, is I need to go build these because I need to control the education and the knowledge that these escrow officers, et cetera, have. Okay. So I may be right. I may be wrong. Insurance, same thing. So I go, okay, everybody keeps asking me about insurance, yet I'm referring literally thousands of people to this same insurance guy that does. Yeah. I'm like, that's a freaking low hanging fruit. What am I doing? One, referring stuff. And two, you know what my first thought was, Cody, until you started talking? I'm going to go build an insurance company.
Well, you should. I mean, listen, I don't think The beautiful part about business, and you guys know this, is it's all just a game. And every game you get to choose what playbook you want to use for what period in time. So I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do this. I think if you like to build those companies and you have awesome operators that are going to go run them for you, so you can still like hang out with your cute kids and go on vacation or whatever, I think that's great. I prefer to buy where I can because I am super cheap. And I don't like ever spending any money that I don't have to. And when I buy a business, I get profits day one. And typically I do it also with very little money down. Now, typically I put in some like small amount of cash to these businesses because I am taking over somebody's like life legacy. You know, they've
Right.
spent their life building this thing. And I just feel like that transfer of value should be respected to some degree at the level of businesses that I'm buying.
But
So
still to that
typically,
point, right, Cody, you could still bring in a partner that brings in that capital with you, right? You bring the deal, they bring the capital, or you could even bring in a private money lender that maybe bridges that capital for you for 24 months or 36 months, right? Something like that. So you essentially could be into these deals that you're talking about, no money out of Cody's pocket.
oh, for sure. I mean, I would say I still do deals that are like criminal, basically. They're legal, but like incredibly low amounts of capital. And there's all these resources we use. I mean, the government gives you free money to buy businesses, which is different. That's an
Wait, what?
SBA
Huh?
loan.
Are you talking about SBA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never really thought about it that way, that the government's giving you money to buy businesses, but you are 100. I got to write that down. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I mean, SBA loans and then seller financing, same thing that you guys do. And then, like you mentioned, we do equipment loans to buy businesses sometimes. Most of the businesses we buy are asset purchases as opposed to stock purchases, which basically just means we're buying these one-off assets. And because we're only buying the assets of a business, we can literally buy that business using equipment loans as opposed and never have to take out a dollar of our own because we value the business less than the total cost of the equipment. AKA if we bought a van fleet, let's say. So I think there's a lot of ways to do exactly what you're talking about with no capital whatsoever. But if I was you, if you're already working with a good provider, that has there's a lot of value there with like, think about it this way, Pace. I mean, you guys have big businesses, so maybe it's pretty easy for you guys to spin up, but like every time you start a new business, you got to like, I don't know, you got to find your operator, then you've got to compensate them properly, then you got to do the website, then you got to put all the systems in place for you to actually take money into the deal, then you've got to like find partners, for you to do different aspects of it. It's just, there's a lot of parts that move before you ever make a dollar. So most businesses, you spend money today for a promise of future potential profits, right? And I just want the profits day one. So I would go to your insurance guy and go, hey, I'm giving you $1 million in XYZ. I want to own part of or all of your business. Let's figure out a way to make that happen. Otherwise, I love you, but like I'm going to launch my own thing. So
such great advice. So we just had this conversation. This is a legit conversation, by the way. Hopefully you guys a lot of people in the side comments are loving this. So we have the customer base, right? Because people follow us all over. We have one of the greatest communities in real estate ever. I would argue we have the best.
The best.
Okay? The best. And so what happens is people not only do deals with each other, they do deals with us. And when do deals with us, they watch. And I'm one of these guys that goes, I got shut down on Instagram like 6 months ago because I actually named the addresses of the assets that I'm buying. So when I say I bought this 0 down, I did this, this, and this. Here's the address. Here's my settlement statement. You can go pull it up public record. YouTube and Instagram is kind of shutting that stuff down. But we also name our insurance rep. We name our title company. We want to give them business and give them love. Now, along the way, the title stuff I picked up along the way because I was like, man, title insurance is the most legalized scam of all time. How can I get it? How can I get in on this? And it's crazy to me. But then insurance. So this conversation that's going on right now, Cody, is I have clients all over the country, all 50 states that are buying real estate. They're getting insurance for their own properties, their homes that they live in. They're getting insurance for their Airbnbs. They're even offering renters insurance to their current renters if that's what their exit strategy is. And I'm sitting here going, but why would our insurance rep want to come and partner with me or maybe collaborate and maybe I become the marketing arm and the distribute and he becomes the fulfillment? I'm asking the same stupid question that people ask when they come to us about real estate, where they go, well, but why would a seller sell to you on seller finance? I'm being a dumbass. Am I not?
Yeah, but it's also just, I mean, I say all this stuff, and do I have $1 billion of assets in businesses? No, and I should, with how much I talk about this and tell other people to do it. So I think it's really standard for even just you talking about this right now. I'm like, God, why haven't I bought one of those marketplaces yet in business buying? And why haven't I figured that out yet? So I think that's just, again, levels to the game, totally normal. For most people listening, they just want to start their first one. But that's the cool thing about this is it's buying businesses is probably just as addictive, if not more so, than real estate, because you know you get an opportunity to peek into all of these worlds. I've done hundreds of deals now, which is a lot in buying businesses. You guys have crushed it though from a real estate perspective. You've done way more deals, but now I really know. I mean, if you were like, Cody, talk to me about the margins on cannabis dispensaries in Portland, Oregon, I'd be like, yeah, actually, I know a thing or two about that. And if you said, like, what type of business should we do going between, I don't know, Amazon FBA and CPG and, online info products, what are the benefits of both? At what, like, margins do they subsist at? You just kind of start knowing this. And then everybody you meet, you get a sickness, which stems off this thing called I think it's called the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. Have you guys heard of this before?
Yeah, is this I call it the frequency phenomenon, where
Exactly,
you
the
start
recency phenomenon.
I call it the Tacoma effect, where like I thought I was such a badass one time when I was like 16. I was like, I'm buying a Tacoma. You can all kiss my ass. Nobody has a Tacoma. And then I started driving to Tacoma. I'm like, where did all these Tacomas come from? All of a sudden.
Exactly right. That's exactly right.
What
It's the same thing with buying businesses.
There's the technical thing for it. What's it called?
The technical term is called the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. Okay. I believe named after the scientist who figured this thing out. But basically just that, our brains are wired to not be able to deal with all the inputs, and our brain has to decide at what point is something here going to be material enough to kill me or for it to become really important. And once you obsess over your Tacomas so much, your brain starts to think, a Tacoma must mean danger or food. And so I'm going to notice them a lot more. And that's the same thing that happens with buying a business. So now every time you talk to your accountant, you're going to be like, why am I paying you so much money to do the accounting on all these businesses and I get no skin in the game? And this is where I like to think about this a bit, because I actually don't think everybody should buy an entire business and run an entire business. I don't think that's going to make everybody happy. My mom would not be happier if she owned individual businesses. She's good. But I do think that my mom would be happier if she had skin in the game to a few things that she felt like she had ownership to in her community. And so one of the benefits, I think, to buying businesses is, even if people listen to this and they're like, I don't want to buy 37 businesses, you should at least negotiate the job that you have to have some skin in the game for it. Or you should at least figure out how to get a little stock or equity in some of these smaller businesses.
Pause on that, because I think that there's a lot of people in this audience and people that will download this in the future.
I also think, Pace, we're talking way up here, bro. We're talking.
I got it.
Let's bring this back real quick. So Cody, we go out, we drive on the streets, we find an ugly house, right?
Yeah.
And we either knock on their door or we call them, and we see if they want to sell that property, right? And then what we do is we put that property under contract. We sell that contract to somebody, like you mentioned, a few steps ahead of us in the game, right? They have the money to do it. They do it. Now we get $15,000 on average every time that we do that. We then build up a business that does that, and then we buy really good real estate in really good areas that we can keep forever, because real estate isn't something like a business that kind of has a shelf life, if we're being honest. With most of them going out of business in the first 15 years, we're talking real estate that goes on for 70 to 100 years, which is fantastic. But going back to what you're doing is, are you finding those distressed business owners, like we find distressed property owners, and you're reaching out to them, and that's where you find the best opportunities where you could walk in with profit day one? Or are you just going, hey, listen, I know these type of businesses so well, this one here is the one that I want to cherry pick. It's got great crew, it's got a great operator, it's got everything good, it just has somebody that doesn't want to run it anymore because they're tired, or they want to move on with their life, or they want you to have it, and they want a little slice from like an owner finance type situation. Because what you do and what we do is very, very, very similar, extremely similar when it comes to, going and finding good opportunities and either getting owner finance to get that cash flow, or finding that opportunity and selling that opportunity to somebody else.
Yeah. First of all, it's cool. Yeah, we should do like some event sometime where we try to get people to buy businesses and real estate, and we see if everybody can like get it done in a weekend together or something. That'd
For
be fun.
That
sure.
would be sick.
Without a
Yeah.
doubt. I would love to call up a business owner and start working that deal. And you go, you know what? You could sell it to my friend over here who buys all those businesses. I bet you could sell that for $5,000 today. You know what I mean? Just put together the whole deal, negotiate it. He's like, you know, if I can walk in with these terms, great. And I work my way into it. And oh my gosh, we could do that all day long. That would be
Yeah,
fantastic.
that'd be fun. Yeah, that'd be we got to experiment with that. I want to do more stuff where we show behind the scenes how we actually do the stuff. At first, a lot of the stuff we talked about was like, hey, this is an option. I swear, look, like here's how to, and now I think it's like, okay, now what does it look like for you? And so the next iteration of what we do on YouTube and what we do in the newsletter and stuff is going to be show, don't tell. And I think that's something that people could hopefully benefit from. But to your point, yeah, I think this could be very low level for just about anybody. You go and knock on doors of ugly houses. Think about it like this. There are right now in the US, 12 million small businesses for sale. The average small business doesn't sell for a year. So just imagine that for a moment. There's 12 houses on a street. 11 of the 12 houses inside of a year will not sell. Like, when have you guys ever been, except maybe in like Detroit on a bad neighborhood, where you've seen 11 houses out of 12 all up for sale, but only one of them sells? Like, that would be wild, right?
Yep.
And yet that's the state of small businesses in the US, because we have the baby boomer generation retiring, which is the biggest small business owner generation that has ever existed. And this small business generation was eviscerated by COVID. They're tired, they're past retirement age. And oh, by the way, there is no generalized marketplace to buy businesses. So there's no demand for it. There's a ton of supply. And then I like to tell the story of my Uncle Eb, who was the man and was super smart and built a business up to $6 million plus in revenue, a plumbing business with his own two hands, like super blue collar guy. His family was sharecroppers, and he got sick. And and I was young at the time, so I didn't really realize what was happening. And what did he do with a business that did about $3 million in profit and $6 million in revenue? Did he sell it? No, he shut it down, because he had no idea that was an asset that you could actually sell to somebody else. If one of his employees had come to him and been like, Eb, I've worked for you for 15 years. I'm the manager. I run this business. I want to buy it from you for $0, except I'll give you 50% of the profits for the next 5 years.
Yes.
That employee gets that business for $1.5 million in profit to himself a year. My Uncle Eb gets $1.5 million, but he's kicking it up. He's not doing anything. And worst comes to worst, my Uncle Eb goes, okay, cool, we'll do that deal, but I get to buy back the business, or I get to take back the business if at any point you don't actually pay me that $1.5 million within a year period. And the cool thing about buying businesses is there are no rules. There's no generalized terms. There's no crazy title company. There's basically anything you want to do in buying a business, you can do, because it's an unregulated market. And so that is the easy way to do it. Now, I would never, ever, ever, if anybody takes anything away from this, it's don't go and buy a shitty business for your first deal. And I know you go to like ugly houses and fix them up. I would not do that for buying a business, because to Pace's point, there could be dead bodies behind some of these businesses. Sure. And in fact, every small business has what's called hair on it. It's a hairy deal. And so what you have to be careful of is that your first deal isn't a bad deal. And that's why we work our way up size-wise, and we make sure that we buy businesses based on the money that they're making today, not like what we think they could do in the future. No. We don't do that.
Can you do this if you don't have leadership skills? Like, if you have a bunch of, and maybe this is just a question right to you, Cody, like if you have a bunch of businesses that you own, how do you make sure that your teams, the people that work in these businesses, follow your vision, and or not even that, just maybe follow their own vision, but that they're still doing stuff. They're still excited. They still want to do the work for you. There's not a tremendous amount of, turnover, which will really just, I mean,
this is such a great question, because I see other people that say, hey, I want to go buy a business. And I'm like, you can't even tie your shoes straight and you want to go manage 30 employees. Like, what is such a great question, Brent?
And some people get into that position and totally blow it, right? Because they think that they have to be like Steve Jobs, or some sort of dictator, and then squeeze the life and energy and love out of the business. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden it just goes crazy because they loved the owner that was there. He's not the greatest owner, but he was so sweet, or she was so amazing, and she got him through these tough times, and now she's gone, and now you're stepping in. Like, how do you do this? Do you need leadership, 1, and 2? How do you do it? How do you manage all these things?
One, it depends what types of business. I mean, let's say that you are self-aware enough to realize that you're not a very good leader. Well, then why don't you buy an online business where basically you have outsourced contractors that have very specific KPIs, or what I call rocks, because we use traction, specific things that they're responsible for, and you systematize the business. The answer to poor leadership is typically, if you're not high on inspiration and vision, then you need to be high on systems and processes. And so you can really offset the two. So, we have a couple people in our group that, like, they'll probably pretty much tell you that they just aren't people. They don't like people. They don't want to have employees. They don't want to talk to anybody all day. But what is one of the guys buying? One of the guys bought an affiliate website that has a lot of web traffic on it. And this affiliate website, he just hooked up a better affiliate marketing system, and he hooked up a series of content writers that all submit to a generalized website. They have systems and processes in it. And so he generates a ton of cash without ever talking to anybody. And in this day and age, because of the technology we have, you can automate a ton in a business. Now, am I saying that you could go buy a big business with a lot of employees and contractors if you have no ability to lead and people hate you the second they stare at your face and it continues? Like, probably not, but there's always a way to optimize around your specific skill set. And maybe this is a biased belief of mine, but I believe that almost anybody can do this. The only thing is, we have something called a deal clarity sheet that we teach people, which is basically, what's your deal box? Like, what's a good deal for you? So for instance, you guys, maybe you wouldn't want to do a house that only paid you $200 a month anymore, because that's too small. But somebody starting out, that might be a great deal. Now you guys only want to do a $20 million apartment. So it's like, what's the deal box that's good for you? And then what are you good at? So if I am a really good graphic designer, and like, all I really like to do is graphic design stuff, I don't want to manage people, I don't want to do, anything above and beyond that, then, maybe I want to buy some sort of tech platform that can help enable me to do more graphic design for people. And like, that's what I focus on. And so the biggest part of being successful in business buying is, first, you got to know yourself, and you got to know your skill set. But I think people severely underestimate themselves and their own capability. The only two things that'll really kill you in buying a business is, one, if you're not good at due diligence, like if you get lied, cheated, and stolen from, and so you've put together a shitty deal and you don't have any protections in it. And then 2, if you're lazy and you don't want to work at all. But if you aren't lazy and you're willing to do some work, and you actually learn how to do due diligence, because it's really not rocket science. I mean, we've been doing this. I was sort of worried when I first started talking about this, because I've been in private equity for a while, but we've been doing this for 2.5 years. We've had something like, 4,000 or 5,000 students go through our programs. Mm-hmm. And I have only ever had one person, probably more people have had it happen, but maybe they've never told me. I've only had one person that told me that they bought a bad business and they lost money on it. And that can't be the only person. But when she came to me, and her name's Susie, and I love her, she's great, she's smart, she didn't do what we told her to do. I'm like, Susie, you literally listened to nothing I told you. You bought a business where you put in a bunch of money. It was a franchise, which I don't like, so you have a bunch of rules. You did a 50-50 partnership deal with a guy you don't know, where you gave him 50%. And oh, by the way, he put in no money on the deal. And it was a restaurant. I hate restaurants. And the restaurant was losing money. It was, what, did you listen to anything?
Try to catch a falling knife.
Right. And so anyway, I think for the most part, that people are competent enough to be able to figure this out. You just start a little bit smaller than you might feel comfortable with on your first deal, so you don't lose your shirt.
I think there's some really easy ones too. Like there's some low hanging fruit, like equipment rental. There's, the vending machine type of stuff that you talk about a lot. Laundromat is like probably one of the easiest streamlined things that you can add additional benefits to, like subscription services. None of the laundromats I've ever been to, okay, use that wash and wash and fold is what you call it?
Wash and fold. Yep.
Which is an unbelievable thing, especially with how busy people are. I now, we have somebody comes into our house, housekeeper, shout out Donna. We love you, Donna. She's awesome. Donna comes in twice a week. She does the laundry. She folds the clothes. She puts all the things together. But I had to find somebody to outsource it to because I couldn't find a company that did it. Here in Phoenix, Arizona, I couldn't find a company. So I went and found an individual. That just tells you there's a pretty massive opportunity for business professionals. It's kind of like
huge
food prep. With people that are super busy CEO types, which there's thousands of us that are like, I need somebody to do this thing and never worry about it. So a wash and fold service would be a pretty easy one to do. And I don't think you have to be the most unbelievable leader to go and run a laundromat. Would you say that?
Oh yeah, no, that's why we start with those. I mean, we have a list. I think if you Google Contrarian Thinking 130 businesses, we have a list of 130 businesses that I like to buy that I think are relatively low lift, profitable enough, and not overly complex businesses. So that would be a good place to start. I think probably about 40 or 50 of those businesses we have more in-depth write-ups on. So you could be like, porta potty business, wonder what that's like. And then you can click into it and you could go down a little bit deeper. And what'll end up happening is, like, I think the best business buyers, they just have that, like you guys were talking about, the recency bias, where something comes across their desk and they're like, this deal would be so hard for me to fuck up that I'm dumb for not doing it. It's like my Uncle Eb's deal. It's like, wait a second, I'm already running this company and now I could just own the whole thing and he could pay me to own it. And so, yeah, there you go. Like, we have this woman, Jay, and she's a part of our group. And Jay was a government contractor for, I don't know, decades. Her boss is older and had never mentioned retiring, never told her he wanted to sell, but she listened to our stuff, approached him about if she could buy out the company. He ends up saying yes. She buys a $1.8 million company using seller finance that she previously used to work for $67,000 a year. And so, yeah, and now she takes home whatever the profit is of that business. It doesn't work out like that every time, believe me, but I think there's more than people anticipate.
Yeah, hold on just a second. I want to make sure everybody gets this because we have over 1,000 people watching right now. And when you mention a website, I want to make sure people get there because they listen and then they go over to the site. The site is not super easy to get to, except it actually is very easy to get to. You just have to Google Contrarian 130 businesses. The people that are on your phone, here's the challenge. The people that are watching on your phone right now and you're driving, do not do that. But the link, you can't see it when you're watching on your phone. You can only see it when you're on your computer, et cetera, in the side chat. So guys, the link, just go to Google and type in Contrarian 130 businesses. And it's like the second thing down. It's awesome. I just did a screen share and I also threw it in the side chat for you guys to click on for the people that are on your computer. So about that, this is an interesting thing. So as I'm listening to this, I have a book coming out sometime next year with Bigger Pockets. And it's all about seller finance. And I start talking to people about how seller finance is in like every day of our lives. And I told a story about one of my buddies, but I didn't really think about how easy this would have been to do even as a beginner. My buddy's father, Larry, gets prostate cancer. This is probably 5 years ago. And he owns this really big book of business with insurance. Big, like 35 years building relationships, shaking hands, kissing babies. Just a badass insurance guy that has so much residual money coming in. It's ridiculous. And the family, when he gets prostate cancer, the family goes into complete shock because they go, what is going to happen to this business? Right? This business is going to get shut down. Everybody is basically working for this company, but not one person stopped and thought, well, why don't I just go to Larry and say, hey, Larry, I love you. I don't think you're going to pass away anytime soon, but how do I work myself into an equity position so that in the untimely and, hopefully not so soon future, I actually can be an owner and I can carry this where the clients know my name as much as they know your name upon your passing. And then that way your legacy doesn't fall apart. This is what you mentioned earlier in the show.
Yeah.
So my buddy calls me because he knows I do seller finance. He calls me up. He goes, dude, can I do this on seller finance? I go, yeah, you could do. I've never done it, but I imagine it's possible. So I would just go to your dad and say, what would it look like for me? And this is what Larry says. He goes, you want to do that? You'd like, let's do it right now. And Larry says, here's my stipulations. I only want to come to the office 3 hours a week and I'll train you and introduce you to clients. And it starts right now. He was ready right then. They were thinking it was never going to happen. And he goes, I didn't bring it up to you guys because I didn't think any of my kids or anybody in the family wanted this business. Meanwhile, he's taking home a $3 or $4 million paycheck every single year from this awesome business. And now Larry is unfortunately passed away. The family is running this business and they actually went and doubled it because they added technology, automations, and all sorts of things to the business.
I love that story.
And it's zero out of pocket.
Zero out of pocket. I know. And it happens all the time. I know my Uncle Eb, it's like one of my great life regrets that I wasn't cognizant of this then. And I couldn't do that for him. I mean, my Aunt Stacy, he ended up, getting sick and having a lot of issues. And, she ended up selling her cabin that was like her treasured place, basically because money. And I was like, God bless. Like if we had just understood structuring and financing, then we would have created generational wealth for a woman who could have continued to live her life exactly how she wanted it for that. And I think all of us could do that. And also, I mean, not to be morbid, but like, what's coming with this recession that we're already in, it's going to be tough for businesses, and there is going to be a massive fire sale for businesses. And so, I just raised more money and I'm going to be buying a ton of businesses.
Do you put a fund together, Cody, and do you go and gobble up businesses? Is that what you're doing? Or do you bring in partners?
I bring in partners. We have a venture capital fund that invests into your point about them doubling the business. What I started to note is that these businesses, they have such legacy technology issues because all the other owners of these businesses are 65 plus. So technology is never going to infiltrate when the people can't even figure out how to text properly. But now that this new generation of youngsters is coming in, new technology is coming in. So we've made a slew of investments in fast growing tech companies that support things like car washes or that support things like laundromats. And so we're buying tech into those. But otherwise, I bring in just a few partners and keep my own money. Because I'm sure, it's the same with y'all. I had LPs, which is basically like having a ton of bosses. Those are investors for decades. And I was like, I don't need any more of those. I'm going to use my own money and not do that anymore.
Yeah, I was afraid of raising money for a long time. The first time I borrowed money from somebody in a real estate transaction, they wanted to pick I don't flip anymore except for the TV show. That we flip probably 20 houses a year, but we used to do cool. 50, 60. Most of what I do is acquire and hold now. But when I did one of my first flips, I borrowed 30 grand from somebody. They wanted to pick the paint color in the house. I was like, really? Is this what it feels like to borrow money? Like you're getting a return and you want to pick the paint color. Like I promise you, I know a thing or a little bit more than you do. Anyway, I like what you're saying about that. So let's say today, somebody in this audience is all pumped up. The comments I'm
pumped up, Pace. How can I go to?
You're always pumped up, dog. Look at
listen, not just these pythons, all right? Like my mind as well, okay, Pace? No, like Cody, I'm pumped. I want to buy some businesses, but I don't want to run them. I don't want my attention going towards these businesses because I want to keep it towards what I love to do every day, right? And so do I get an operator? Do I get somebody that's experienced with buying businesses? Do I start looking on a certain site to look for those type of things? You know what I mean? How do I get going? Well,
first, let's play a game. I was thinking about for your audience, like what should, let's say you and members of your audience do? One of my favorite businesses to buy right now that I'm actively acquiring is property management businesses. Yep. And the reason why is a couple fold. One, if you own a bunch of real estate, and I own some, but you guys definitely own more, you obviously know about the cyclicality of the real estate market, right? And so typically when it's a good time to, buy, people don't have capital. And when it's a good time to buy, typically you're making less money on the deals. And so anyway, I wanted something to offset some of the real estate holdings that we have. We have a decent amount of Airbnbs, we have short-term rentals, and anyway, and so property management, I was like, well, look at this. I'm paying some of these Airbnb property managers like 20-25% to manage my properties. And if, we have millions of dollars in these assets, that's millions of dollars that I am paying them. And so, so I started looking at property management businesses. So that's one of the ones that I really like to buy right now. When I do a deal, I start with having an operator in mind. You guys have such an unfair advantage. You have 1,000 people on here losing their mind on this show with all of you. Like if I was you, I would have a screening process where you basically have, like, I'd put together a 16 personalities test. I'd put together some projects and free things people would do. I'd probably have something where somebody junior was able to screen members of this group for XYZ hoops that they would jump through, because you have this group of people who, one, already trust you, two, probably don't have a ton of capital to play with, and three, could be highly competent on some of the businesses that you want to execute on. And I would be going to them for your operators. So I've done multiple deals with members of my community in the exact same way. You guys are going to operate all of it. You're going to execute on everything. I'm going to tell you how to do it. I'll probably bring you the deal. I'll finance it if we end up needing that, but you're going to do everything regarding that business. And then I'm going to make sure, and this is more technical, but we could get into it if you guys start doing deals this way. You just have to make sure that the terms are not fair for somebody who's coming in and getting their sweat equity with doing a deal like you guys. And I'll just say that to your audience right now. So there's going to be some unfair terms in the beginning. But what I tell all of my operators is, if you're good, like, you will buy as many Lamborghinis as you want to working with me. Like, because we will just do bigger and bigger and bigger deals. But your first deal is probably not going to be the biggest, and the terms are going to be really skewed towards me. There's no 50-50 deals. And then as you get bigger and you're crushing it, then I don't really care. Maybe you're taking 70% of a deal and I'm taking 30, and that's fine because you're a trusted member now. So that's how I would be doing deals. And in fact, I think we have a breakdown of like 3 businesses that I would buy during a recession. And I think that's at like contrarianthinking.co/recession. And one of them is property management. It'll break down how to buy a property management business, and then pack and ship. And then the third one, I can't remember what it is, but that could be useful
pack and
too.
ship, Cody?
This one's a fun little business. So you know how you go to UPS or FedEx and you send your stuff out, right? And you think the business is packaging stuff, getting packages back and forth sent, and that's where they make their money. Well, that's not really it, actually. It is a mini storage unit business is really what it is. The business is all those PO boxes that are on the wall. And so in a UPS or FedEx franchise, you can only have, I can't remember what the number is, but let's call it 200 per site. Well, my friend Lisa, when she showed me this business, she's in real estate too, Lisa Song Sutton.
Yeah, I love Lisa. She's great.
Okay. So Lisa and I have been friends for some time. And so she was like, here's the play. You, instead of putting in 200 mini mailboxes, you put in 1,000. And so the business that you own is really just trying to get as many PO boxes in there as possible, because each PO box pays you 20 or 30 bucks a month times 1,000 in like a 500 square foot location. The math gets pretty interesting pretty quickly. So if Lisa wasn't so busy doing 472 different things, I would tell her, scale this, brand them, scale them, put them in multiple locations, and do a roll-up based business in this space, because reoccurring revenue with subscriptions in that small of square footage with the type of margins you would have, that's just asking for a private equity company to come acquire you for 10x.
Guess what I'm doing tomorrow?
Yeah,
this is what's funny. I tell people how to have anonymity in real estate. Like, your name should not be on any of your LLCs. You should have this and that. And even on my driver's license, it doesn't have my personal house. It has my PO box.
Oh,
and
God,
so I tell
smart.
people this all the time. Okay. It's like a pack and ship place. So everything goes there. People come and deliver things not to my house. They go somewhere else. And I have probably sent, I don't know, a good 3,000-4,000 people to go sign up with UPS store. And I never thought about replacing my expense with an income of just going, and I'm in real estate. I could go buy somebody else's, I could go build that business in 2 days, literally 2 days.
Yeah. Well, and you could buy, I try to get my parents, that's the other thing, is I'm sure you guys are the same with real estate. I'm always like, all right, in however many years, I'm going to be wanting to take care of my parents. And I don't want them to have to pay for anything. I want to pay for everything for them. But wouldn't it be nice if they had assets that like they need? I think everybody needs a purpose and some pursuit. But if they had low lift assets that they could be involved with, but that could be in their names. And so I was trying to talk my parents in Arizona to I will buy you a couple pack and ships, or we can start with one. I will have an operator run it, but like you can go check on it and see how it's doing, Dad, because my dad's in commercial real estate there. And my dad is just of that generation. He's an immigrant, came from nothing. And he, despite being in real estate, has only, I think, ever owned 2 pieces of real estate his whole life, and just is like super risk averse, just does huge complex transactions, helps me when I do them, but just doesn't like to take the risk. I can't get him over that barrier, right? He paid off his entire mortgage. And he's like so proud of that. And I'm like, God, this is such a bad idea. Like with interest, you had a mortgage at 2.5% and you paid it off. What? Oh, right. And so that's the part that I want to get people to realize is like, man, if you understand debt and money and liabilities and assets in a 21st century, just one step past rich dad, poor dad, you can write your own checks.
Yeah, like it's kind of like the Dave Ramsey world, right? Dave Ramsey has such amazing things. I watched a video about delegation with him a couple of days ago, and I was like, man, I have all these employees, and I just took 5 things away from what Dave said about delegation. He's a genius, but when it comes to leveraging money, debt, he appeals to people's lizard brain. Basically, the people that are fearful of, oh my gosh, and they spend 20 years saving up $300,000 and wasting their whole life away because they don't understand that debt actually can be an amazing leverage tool, right? One step beyond that, you open up this magnificent world. One of the things I loved you said earlier was there are no rules in buying and selling businesses. There's really no governing body. And once you understand just one step beyond Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or some of Dave Ramsey's principles, you can create, it's like an open world, like World of Warcraft. It's like you can just go in there and be who you want to be, do what you want to do, go acquire anything that you want to acquire and create, which is freaking fun.
Oh, it's so true. Yeah, I think it's the most fun thing out there. I have a hard time wanting to do normal stuff. Like I don't really want to watch Netflix and talk about the weather and, I don't know. I would much rather do deals. I think it's a fascinating topic. The other thing that I'm curious on, your guys' perspective is, I think I can't really understand why I wish I could figure out how to get people past the fear. It's not my specialty at all. My specialty is like, I'm really good at the tactics and I've actually done this stuff. So if people are one step past fear, then I can take them and get them to buy a business and change their life and make millions and all that jazz. But that like Tony Robbins shit, that like jumping on trampolines, getting right to that. I've just never really been able to crack that code. I'm really glad there are people like Tony Robbins out there, but I think so many people are actually, they're one step way before Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and they won't ever even get to be on something like this and understand it because the story they're telling themselves is every time I say something, it's not how could this work for me? It's why won't this work for me?
Yeah, 100%.
I wish I knew how to change people's mind. Do you guys do
anything?
Yeah,
I had this conversation. I was like, when I first met Alex Hormozy like 2 years ago, I asked him this question. I said, if I could invent a pill, the pill would to get people over their own fears and their own thoughts. Like that would be the number one most beneficial pill you could ever be before curing cancer. It would be the most 100%. Beneficial thing is getting people over their fear. And I said, how would you do it? Like through your words, because he's so articulate and intelligent. So. And he was, the answer he gave me was like, don't even try. Right. It was joking back and forth. But here's how I do it. I think that that's one thing I'm pretty good at. Here's the challenging thing. We traveled to 71 cities. I'm a little bit crazy. Last year we traveled to 71 cities and I spoke on a lot of stages, but what I'm most excited about after I speak on a stage is you'll see, actually, I'm going to hang out with you in Vegas in like 3 weeks at Ryan's event. I hang out in the hallways. Afterwards, I go on appointments with people and I don't tell people anything. I show them through action. I go, get in my damn car. I'm going to go show you how this is done. And because people are so monkey see, monkey do, when you do it at a live event, kind of like what you were talking about earlier, a live event would change people's lives. because they see it in action. They go, wow, that's not fear. That's not as hard as I thought it was. We did, for Halloween, Cody, we did this thing called the Nightmare on Deal Street event. It was a free event. We had like 150 people come over to my office, and we literally just go, all right, guys, we're going to call for 45 minutes. And a lot of you guys have never made a call in your entire life to do a deal. And in 45 minutes, people that had never made a call in their life got over that fear. One, because they saw other people doing it. Two, they had that energy of activity around them, which I think a lot of people are lacking. And then three, they had a lot of encouragement from other people that were next to them that also had done it. And they were in that physical environment. And 6 people, I think, in 45 minutes got their first contract. And we created probably $100,000 in revenue in 45 minutes, which was pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Pretty amazing. But that's the only way we figured it out. I don't know how to do it on the mass basis. Like you look at Ed Milet, and somebody said, do you like Ed Milet? I go, he's good at getting the masses off of their asses. Kind of like Tony Robbins. I am not good at that.
Yeah. It's so true.
It's the theme of our show here, Cody, is to squat up. You squat up with other people that are doing it. You get over the fear by being around people that are proactive. You get over the fear by seeing it happen in real life. You get over the fear by being around people that have already gotten over the fear. And then you got to stop blaming. You got to stop blaming anything, situations, your past, the way that you were brought up, everything, blaming the economy, blaming Biden, blaming Trump, blaming whoever. It doesn't matter. It's all blame. So if you have personal responsibility and a squad, that's the key. And I think Pace does an unbelievable job. And I'm swimming in his wake with building my community as well. The Sub 2 has an incredible community. And you see people getting over their fear because they're around other people that have taken the personal responsibility and surround themselves with it. So it's a community thing. It's not a lonely trip. It's not you're on an island just hoping that you can hear something or get excited. I know so many people, they get so excited every day. They watch you, Cody, and they get pumped. They watch Tony Robbins and they're going to run through the wall. They're going to do push-ups. They're going to get excited, and then they never pick up the phone and do anything. They never do due diligence. They never take the next step because they don't have the squad and they don't have personal responsibility. So I think the combination of both of those is what it really gets you over. At least that's what got me through really tough times and rock bottom and building up from there. So I think those two are the real key.
That's true.
We only have you for 10 more minutes, Cody. Appreciate you coming, by the way. A good 1,000 people showed up. Probably had about 3,000 people roll through. 90 minutes is a long time for people to stick through, but we'll have 150,000 people download this episode over the next 30 days, which we're super proud of. And thank you for giving us your time. We adore you. A couple of fire questions. Okay. So Rylas Dana, probate attorney, good friend of mine. I've done a lot of real estate deals with Rylas. He says, I'm searching for probate law firms. So an attorney like Rylas, right? I think attorneys are kind of antiquated in their process, and they're not really automated, kind of similar to what you've been talking about with other businesses.
Very much so.
How would I go about finding businesses? Is Biz Buy Sell my best chance of finding a business of somebody that might be open to this?
Yeah, well, a couple things. One cool thing about attorneys is in most states, if maybe not all of them, you have to be an attorney to own a law firm. So you have a natural moat built into who the buyers are for legal firms. Like I would love if I could buy one business right now with the amount I spend on fucking attorneys, I would buy a legal firm. I would buy a law firm, but I can't. And so anyway, so one, I think that's really cool. Two, no, the best way, in my opinion, always to buy a deal is your network. You're already an attorney. You need to go where the attorneys are. You want to play a game, go where the game is played, get to the field. And so the first thing I would tell you to do is you just start telling people, this is the most important part. You say, hi, my name is Rylas. I buy law firms. You're not saying you have bought one. You say, that is what you do. You say, I buy law firms located in XYZ area in probate, which is my specialty. I'm actually looking for a deal right now. I have a community of other investors I work with. By the way, this is your community. These are the other investors. This is all true, right? I buy probate law firms. If you run a probate law firm or you know anybody that does, that's in the realm of, I don't know what size business you want to buy, Riley, but you usually buy businesses for 2 to 3x their profits. That's my deal box. Could be all the way to 10x their profits. You could buy it for 1x their profits. I kind of like that 2 to 3x. Sometimes I'll go up to 8x. It's kind of my deal box. So let's say that you want to buy a business that nets you $100,000 a year. And that's just what you want. That's where you want to start. That means you're looking to buy a business that does at least $200,000 to $300,000 in profit. Average law firm probably has profit margins of about, let's be generous, say 40 to 50%. So let's say you're looking for a law firm that does anywhere from $400,000 to $800,000 in revenue. That's how you backdoor your deal box. So you say, okay, I buy probate law firms located in Phoenix, Arizona, because that's my specialty, that are anywhere from $400,000 to $1 million, $400,000 to $1 million in revenue. Do you happen to know anybody who runs, law firms who might be interested in selling? And you start saying that to everybody you meet. You go to local chamber of commerce events. You go to attorney meetups. You tell your accountant and attorney friends. You tell your clients that. And I can pretty much guarantee you within the first 30 days, you're going to have a few deals on your plate. They're probably going to be off market. They're probably not going to know what the value is. You're going to have to do some digging in it, but that's how I would start. You can go to the Biz Buy Sells. You can go online. We teach, I think we have something like 24 different ways that we buy businesses, but I always like to start with that. Start with your network, burn your network as much as you can, get as much as you can. I don't mean in a negative sense. I mean, just use up all the contacts from your network that you can, and then go cold. But it's always better to start warm.
I love that. It's a great answer. By the way, there's somebody in here that says, you could buy those businesses, right? So somebody says, well, you could go out, Cody, and you could go get a partner as an attorney. Here's the challenge. Guys, she's trying to get your asses to take action. She can't go buy every single business in the country. You guys need to get your ass into gear and go take some freaking action yourself, right? Don't make her go buy all of them. You go buy some of them yourself. So Cody, how can people learn more? I am a contrarian. Not because you gifted anything to me, but because I'm a fan. I'm a big fan, new friend of yours. How can people find you? Where do people go to sign up with your world and get connected with you?
Yeah, the best place, there's two spots. Contrarian Thinking, you want to sign up for the newsletter. It's free. You get it once a week. We talk about all this stuff all the time. If you want to actually learn about buying businesses, on there's a portion of it called courses or communities. And in there, we have something called unconventional acquisitions, which is basically exactly this. How do you buy businesses? We do it with a group of other people. There's like a do-it-yourself model where there's a course, or there is a do-it-with-others model, which is the community. So I'd say that's where you should start. But, to be fair, yes, we sell a way to do it faster. Our sort of goal is that we want, if people are part of our community, you to be able to buy a small business that completely replaces your W-2 income. That's the lower level mastermind within 12 months. So we want you to completely replace, I typically target about $100,000 in income with buying businesses. And then we're launching actually a higher level one that I'm kind of interested to see how that works. That will just be big investors that basically want to get $1 million plus in investment income that cash flows. So that's what, but candidly, we put out so much free content. You guys could just start listening to it, learning about it, see if this feels good to you, and then you could take a leap later on. The only other thing that I think is really cool, and I just want to shout you guys out, but let's do it. Let's actually hold ourselves accountable to this. I'll bring some of my video team when we're in Vegas, and I'm going to look around and see if I can find some businesses that we could actually feel comfortable making real offers on and engaging on when we're in Vegas. I'm going to make Lisa Song Sutton run any of them that I buy since she's located there.
Let's make Ryan run them all.
Oh, Ryan probably actually would too.
He's a great operator.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And he has a few members of his team that have been wanting to buy businesses. I kind of want to buy a few businesses, smaller ones, and gift them to people who operate, do the work, and then at the end, that's the other cool thing about buying businesses. At a certain point, it only takes me 2 to 3 years to get all my cash back from most of the transactions I do. So I gifted 2 businesses last year to operators because I had made 4 to 5x on them. They were too small for me to really keep paying any attention to. But that changes that guy's trajectory.
Yeah, it's huge. And Lisa Song Sutton too. I think she owns a cupcake company.
Yeah, she's a nut.
Bikini company. I believe. And I think she owns something else. I've been friends with her not as long as you, probably about a year and a half or so. And she's awesome.
Yeah.
She's a great operator too. So
Yeah.
I'd love to do
She
that.
owns
I'm
a
going to be
real
there.
estate franchise. And I want to learn how to buy a house with seller financing.
I've got one in Vegas. I'm under contract right now. We can go visit the property. Zero
perfect.
down. It's in Vegas. I'm under contract right now. I'll be closing.
I want to go knock on some doors and try it live. And see.
Here's the thing about our business. It's pretty cool is that we don't knock on doors, but people that are starting out that don't have a lot of capital, they go knock on doors because they go, well, I have no money for software. I don't have the ability to hire people to do cold calling.
Yeah.
I maybe have not, I don't have capital. So knocking doors is where 80%, I think that's the number, right, Brent? 80% of people get their first deal in
driving for dollars, just finding the ugly properties that are on the streets. And then you can get into all sort of niche lists, pre-foreclosures, probates, people that are tax default, people that have code violations, all of those different signs of distress that we go after.
Yeah. Alexis Morgan out of Orlando got, I think, her first 3 real estate deals from door knocking, did great YouTube content on it. And then she graduated. So most people go and graduate from door knocking and then ultimately get to a point where you go, okay, I'm either on market or I'm off market as a real estate investor. And so like Jamil, our third out of the 3 amigos that are on the show, Jamil focuses primarily on real estate agent outreach, working with agents that get pocket listings. I go direct to seller or I work with brokers, and Brent is direct to seller. You're direct to seller primarily, right? You're cold calling primarily.
That and referrals. Yep.
That and referrals.
That's
so
great.
For us, we love looking for off-market deals. Cody, I'd love to do something with you. Jamil, myself are going to be there. A handful of our buddies are going to be there in Vegas for probably 5-6 days. If opportunity presents itself, I would love to take you to the house that I'm buying with no money out of my pocket, subject to. And I'd love to go look for some businesses with you.
Cody, it goes bananas. We get people on the phones, making calls, talking to real people, like live. We're just kind of circling them, getting everybody excited. We ring the victory bell. We go bananas. It's just absolutely, it's exciting. I would love, I would love to do it with business owners. Call up business owners and see, when do you plan on selling this business? And just listen to them. You know what I mean? Nothing on the market.
The fun part is, like, I think it's cool when people see people like us who have had maybe some degree of success and like we're still willing to get in it, because then, to your point, there's no excuses for anybody. If it's like, I'll go, I have however much money I have and I have all these businesses and blah, 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 but I'll still go knock on a door and see what it's like. And whatever you realize, like, it doesn't mean that you're less than, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a fun new way to play the game. And so I think it's all a good time. And in Vegas, there'll be plenty. The only thing that's slightly annoying about Vegas is just the setup right by the strip. We'll want to get off strip and look at some stuff in the surrounding areas. But yeah, we can make Ryan Pineda open up his office for us and play some games. That'd be hysterical.
Yeah,
he'd love it too.
Cody, real quick, your first business, who did you reach out? How did you, just 30 seconds, who was the first person that you picked up the phone and you called and you were able to put together your first business?
I didn't call. I walked in. Okay. Yeah, that was a laundromat deal. And that was like the first one that was just mine. Nobody else.
Yep.
So yeah.
That's your door knocking story, though. That's the story that, like, so many people in our world start with, is just going into a business, going into an ugly house and being brave and having that conversation. I mean, that's how it starts.
Yeah, 100%. Yep. And we did it online for a long period of time. And I mean, to be frank, I always piss everybody off in private equity because typically the stuff that I'm talking about is called private equity, right? And it's these fancy guys with suit and ties that go out and buy these big businesses and they use big words like LBO, right? And all they're doing is exactly what we talk about. When they say leverage buyout, they just mean little money down deal. But they say
I thought LBO was like a Korean boy band.
I don't know that. Is that really one? But yeah, I mean, so I think everybody in private equity they don't want the little guys to play these games. And I actually think if more people play these games, then we just get to come up with new ones. So I think it's awesome what you guys are doing. Thanks for letting me be here and be a part of it. Your community is incredible. These guys seem like humans who are rare.
Humans that do. That is a really great way to describe them. So, guys, contrarianthinking.co. I am a contrarian. I think that her newsletter is the best newsletter. So she has a way for you guys to tap into her and her resources for free. And when you guys are ready to jump in, she's got a great community inside of there that people are helping. I love what she said earlier. She said she's only seen one person lose a business. It was because they went against everything that she taught. Super fun. We look forward to collaborating with you a lot more in the future.
Super fun.
You're not in Vegas, right?
No, I'm in Austin, Texas.
You're in Austin. What took you to Austin, Texas? That place is pretty dope though.
Yeah. I mean, the tax code's great. There's also, I kind of like to embody the thing I said, which is I like to go where the game's played. When I was in finance, I was in New York and Chicago. When I was in Latin America, I was in Miami and Mexico City. I took a little break, hung out in San Diego, just invested for a while. But Austin, Texas is I think probably one of the media empires currently. Like you have just a ton of players there from, people like, Sam Parr building The Hustle and everything that he's built here. People like Noah Kagan building like backend systems, and then the media empire that he has. The Hormozis were here. So I think, there's this nexus that's happening here between startups and media that I think is interesting. And so we want to tap into it.
Very cool. Well, thank you again, Cody. You're amazing. Look forward to seeing you in Vegas here in the next couple of weeks. Guys, go follow Cody if you're not already following her, and go to contrarianthinking.co. A lot of people have that link for the 130 businesses. I saw the chat blowing up. People are going through that list and just loving it. So thanks again, Cody. And we'll see you again on Wholesale Hotline, maybe.
Sounds like a plan. You guys are the best. This was a blast. Thanks again. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Cody.
That was fun.
A lot of fun.
What do we got? What do we got next week? We've got Christmas on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine we're doing Wholesale Hotline the day after Christmas, right?
I might not. I'll let you know.
I will be here.
Yeah.
I canceled my plans of going to Hawaii. I will not be going to Hawaii. I will be here for Wholesale Hotline, guys. We will have a good time. We will see you guys next week on Wholesale Hotline.
Or just say squat up.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
What are you doing? I didn't say nothing.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
Cool.